to open the event and give us a glimpse into the TUFFIES, a better understanding to what makes this launch from Cipla so special.
Very good afternoon, everyone. Can we have the, yeah, thanks. So very good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all of you for taking time out and coming for this special initiative. As you know, that Cipla has been at the forefront of respiratory care for almost 6 decades now. This is something, today, when we are talking of consumers as children, we took it on us to talk to them in a language, which they understand, and to make them aware of how a life with asthma can be lived, in a much better manner than what's happening today. So the whole intent, of launch of this campaign, in making them breathe better as and when the disease progresses or the time, betters. The TUFFIES comic book introduces various characters. There is a Vicky, who happens to be a detective, his sister, interactive medium. It will be a medium through which, people or kids, would relate to. I'm myself getting addicted to it. So, that's how.
Her experience and thoughts on the TUFFIES campaign.
Good afternoon, everybody. Great to see so many of you here. First of all, thank you, Mr. Gaurav, Dr. Vikas Gupta, and I'm so happy to be sitting here next to Dr. Barnali, who I must say is stunning. I've been admiring her. I've been wanting to ask her, what is it that you're wearing in your bun? It's so pretty and beautiful eyes. And you just said something about reversing the age, 62 and 26. I think you're a 26-year-old. You're definitely not 62. The energy is that of a 26-year-old. It's amazing. And I really hope I can always live young in my head the way you are. And I think that also comes from having a purpose in life, which you do. And that's what keeps you going. And that is a great lesson that I'm going to take back with me today. But we are here for the campaign that Cipla is running for kids. The initiative is called TUFFIES. I've been part of Cipla's earlier campaigns also, and I agree with Dr. Barnali. They were targeted towards the parents, towards the elders, and this campaign is targeted towards the children. We always we don't give our children enough credit, or we don't believe how much they can understand and grasp a situation. But they are very mature, and when they're put in a position, and if you can explain things to them, they get it very quickly and they rise to the occasion. That's been my experience, where when I went through my illness and when I explained that to my son, he more than rose to the occasion, understood exactly what I was talking about, in fact, became one of my biggest support systems in that. And I find that when you treat your children, when you talk to them as adults, because you might need a little bit longer to explain a thing rather than saying, "Bade ho jaoge to samajh mein aayega." That statement is just not the thing. The moment you can take those 5 minutes extra and explain the thing to a child, I have realized that you have a more understanding teenager. If you've done that with your child in the younger age, your teenage years are easier because your child understands. They learn to, they understand the other side of it. They understand others' point of view. And suddenly the bond between the parent and the child is also much better. My child had asthma, and you were right. It was, though I was in the city with everything going on, it was a tough call to take because so many myths. There's so many things that people tell you, and it's like, don't put them on medication. They're going to start putting on weight. They will not have the strength. There's so many myths about it. Fortunately or unfortunately for me, I had a father who was asthmatic, and my childhood went in seeing horrifying asthma attacks, because an asthma attack, a full-blown, any parent who has seen it or anybody who has asthma in the family, when you get a full-blown asthma attack, when you can't breathe, life is over. Not being able to breathe, you just realize there's nothing in life without breath. And a person who's breathless and you can't do anything, and you can see that person that you love gasping for breath, is the most horrifying sight. I've grown up with that. The same myths went on at that point also. Alternative medicine, trying various things, not really understanding what is asthma and why does it happen. Lungs weak hair, but it's not. What is triggering the asthma is something that was never kind of, looked at or, what would I say, handled in that way. So because of that experience, when I saw that my child was getting cold, and the first thing that the doctors would say was that, oh, it happens, with children, their immunity is low, and, they are going to fall sick. I said, no, but, I know what I'm doing. And of course, for me, everybody jumping to the conclusion that only nannies knew what was happening about my child and I did not, was the conclusion that everybody jumped to first. So for me to say that, getting people to hear me and say that, listen, I know what I'm doing. I know my child should not be getting an infection constantly. He was born absolutely healthy, big boy, and he should not be falling ill like this. And there is something wrong. It was eventually our family doctor and not the pediatrician who understood what I was saying, because he had seen it with my father. He had seen me having allergies, not asthma, but allergies. So he said, I think this is the wheezing. And when the infection was happening, because the windpipe and the lung were getting constricted, and that's why the water that was remaining, in layman terms, was turning into septic, was turning into an infection. We were targeting the infection, and the poor child was being given so many, I did not want to give, but was being given antibiotics to take care of the infection and to get rid of the cough, which was basically his little body trying to open the windpipe, was being given cough medicine, which was making him droopy, drowsy, cranky. Hence, he was not feeding well, he was not eating well, and he was growing weaker. This cycle, it sounds like a small thing, but in that tiny little baby who is 1 month old, this cycle is a scary cycle. And yes, I did catch it at that point, because I was a hands-on mother, and I was not aware of it being asthma at that point, but I just knew something was not right. He should not be getting the infection. I know exactly how I'm handling the child, and this is not right. So when I figured that this was asthma, then started the way of how do we handle it. And the idea is to literally identify it the moment he starts getting it, and you give the pump, and you don't go into a full-blown attack, because when you go into a full-blown attack, by the time the child recovers from that attack, it's a month. It's a whole month that the child loses in that, So, and then as they grow older, when they start playing, they've lost a whole month of not going out and not playing. They're out of the habit. They start sitting at home. They're playing video games. Earlier we used to be bookworms and read, but now even worse, they're sitting in front of a TV screen or a monitor or playing video games. And there is no, and then the vicious circle starts. So for me, it was start giving him the medicine that is needed, which was him being a toughie, put him into the pool, get him to start building, the lungs up by doing the cardio, by doing the thing, which would trigger, because cardio also triggers the asthma, which would trigger the asthma. So the idea was to tell him that, but you know what? Tell him the stories of people who have achieved, who are players, in the sports that your kids like. Like my son liked basketball, and it was like, okay, this is the player, and you know what? He's got asthma, but he's playing NBA. So and there's so many other heroes that you can, Google, research, and tell your kid that, you know what, this is what you want to do. This is what this person does. just takes this medicine and goes back to it. The idea was to keep getting the child back to it. And it's not easy because it really, asthma attack really drains the child of energy. They don't want to go. They're cranky about going back to playing. At that point of time, you need to put in that extra effort and take them back out there and get. But the idea is to, when you do that for the first few years and you tackle it in that way, today, my son works out, plays, swims, everything. He's as normal as he can be. He has his inhaler in his pocket, which I think he feels confident about that it is there. But honestly, it expires. We chuck it and get a new one because he doesn't need to use it most of the time at all at this point of time. But you just have it for, if there is an allergen, if it happens. Also, the best thing is that however all mothers think we know our children so thoroughly, however well we know our child, if your child can start identifying the symptoms, he will identify the symptoms so much before you will see it. And so when he tells you, which my son did, he said, Mama, I think it's happening again. You take the puff, you go on. And, it doesn't need to go beyond that. And, you just go stronger, grow stronger, and you come to a point where you barely need it. So identifying and using it at the right time, for the right amount of time, talk to your doctors. Don't overdo it. Keep a balance, but do it. The point is to identify it and, start with it so that you can build on it. Is that the right way to say it, doctor? Is that what I would say? Yeah, so a lot of talking I've done, I think, and I must say that I have guts to do all this, considering there are two doctors over here. But this was just the mother's perspective, a daughter's perspective, because I've had the asthmatics in the family. But about the campaign, I would say that I love books and I've enjoyed comic books always. So this campaign with the characters that have been created is so wonderful and so fun that I wanted to read the comic book, and I agree with Dr. Vikas on that. I'm looking forward to the adventures of these characters, Minnie, Gulu and Vicky, and of course them being, and I love what the campaign is called, Be a Toughie. And that is what we need to keep telling our children. Be a toughie, get on with it. And I think it applies not just to asthmatics, it applies to all of us. Somewhere in life, we all go through our various challenges, and the way to handle them is to take them head on and be a toughie. Thank you, everybody.
Am I the only one who got goosebumps? It was really touching. Thank you so much, Sonali, for your candor and for being so open with your experience as a mother.
Before we decide what we think about someone, we should try to learn more about them. This can help us avoid making wrong assumptions and treat them kindly and fairly. The end.
That was quite the adventure, Sonal. And
Thank you.
the toughies took on us. The little kids can now join their moms back in the audience. Thank you, kids. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Sonal.
Thank you so much.
Now
Thank you, kids. Did you like the comic? Did you like the story? Did you like the first episode, guys?
Yay.
Yes.
Very good.
Now, before we head out for some games and activities, I would like to invite Cipla's respiratory cluster head, Mr. Gaurav Kaul, to close the event and leave us with some final thoughts. Mr. Gaurav, could you please have...
Thank you, Dr. Vikas. Thank you, Sonali. Thank you, Dr. Banali. Now to the special person, Sonal. Sonal, it was amazing. I remember, I thought I'm a junior Sherlock Holmes. I still remember when I was 10, we were talking about Baker Street where he used to stay. And actually, I thought it's not a fiction, it's a reality. When I was hearing your story, I thought Vilaspur actually exists where our Vicky stays. So thank you so much. Amazing narration of stories. Big round of applause to Sonal. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Over to MC. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gaurav, for those kind words. Well, that's all, folks, from my end today. Please don't forget to pick up some lunch on your way out. For the little ones, we have some caricature artists. So make sure to collect them on the way out. Do not forget your goodie bags, the lunch, the caricature, the balloon artists. Influencers on stage, you can or may not get your kids along with our guests. And I'm going to join the picture too because I'm a mom influencer too.
Thank you everyone. We almost forgot to thank a very special person, which is Dr. Bendre, for hosting the event. Thanks a lot, Dr. Bendre. Wherever you are in the crowd, I cannot see you.
I'm right in the center.
Thank you.
Hey, man.
Hello.
Ready, please.
Can we have the comic book? Any comic book copies?
To the Cipla team, please stay back for a photo of the Sonali. To the entire Cipla team, including Dr. Vikas.
Lavti,
Tuffies ka tea, please.
Devanshi. You guys have to stay back for the bites. Lavti, Devanshi and Amanpreet. Please stay back for the media bites. Everyone else can proceed. Don't forget to collect your goodie hampers that have been personalized for you.